So yesterday we talked about all the different ways to make an entertaining beginning. So just to review, an entertaining beginning for narrative writing, we could start with an action where you might ask yourself as the writer, what would the character do in this moment? You can also start with dialogue, like a conversation. That conversation could be from the character to themselves, the character to another character, or what someone is saying to the character. A thought or a question. Remember, we want to make sure that this is a question or a thought that the character might be curious about or wondering about. Or you can start with a sound, and that doesn't just have to be like an onomatopoeia sound. It can be a crowd cheering, an engine revving, people walking, whatever kind of sound it is. It doesn't have to just be a bang, boom, zow kind of sound. So in our lesson today, we are actually going to revise this first draft topic, the first draft beginning that a student turned in. I'm going to tell you about my first roller coaster ride. This kind of beginning is pretty common for kids who aren't sure quite where to start first. And they tell you what they're going to tell you about. I'm going to tell you about my first roller coaster ride. Well, the problem is a roller coaster ride is exciting. It's action-packed. It's full of sound. It's full of questioning, especially whether you love it or you hate it. It's full of action, right? And so when we begin writing, we want to get straight to the action as quickly as possible. Get straight to the story, even if it's not an action. Get straight to the story. Don't tell me what you're going to tell me. And for heaven's sake, don't introduce yourself first. All right, so in second period, we created some revisions. So here was our action-packed revision. So instead of saying, I'm going to tell you about my first roller coaster ride, we get right to the action of it. I buckled my seatbelt and I grabbed my dad's arm. I prayed to God and made sure to cross myself just in case. So this is a great action opening because we have some action, buckled, grabbed, prayed. But we also we get a feeling from those actions, we get a feeling about how this character is what kind of emotion they're going through right then. They're very nervous. We know because they made sure to buckle that seatbelt, they grabbed their dad's arm, and then they prayed just to make sure. So this is just the beginning. Of course, if you chose this beginning, you would continue on writing that story. But we're just practicing beginnings today, entertaining beginnings. Our second attempt was to use some dialogue. And someone in second period really came up with a great opening line. I'm too young to die, I shouted as the roller coaster approaches the top of the giant hill. This is where we have a character we didn't start in line, and that's okay. We didn't even start with buckling the seatbelt. This person begins their panic right as they're getting to the top of that giant hill, and we feel them just regretting everything. We can start with a thought or a question. Something even just as simple as, why did I think this was a good idea? As the reader, it makes me want to keep reading and think like, ooh, what are they doing? And was it really a good idea? And then our last one was a sound. People screamed as the cars clicked up the first hill. Traffic on the freeway zoomed by. So here we've got several sounds. People screaming, the cars clicking, that click, 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 as it slowly pulls the roller coaster carts up that first hill. And then traffic on the freeway zoomed by. So here in Arlington, Texas, if you're riding the Shockwave roller coaster, it's literally right next to Interstate 30. And so, of course, we can hear that traffic zooming by. So these are just 4 ways that you can start your narrative beginning. Or definitely, whether you like the action, dialogue, thought or question, or sound better, we have to admit they all are better than I'm going to tell you about my first roller coaster ride. Hopefully, each and every one of these is more interesting. And like I said, you would choose the one that you like best and then continue your story on from there. Okay? So in your assignment today, you're going to be doing the same thing with a boring beginning and revising it using an action, a dialogue, a thought or a question, and a sound. And you can find that assignment on Canvas labeled as number 2 assignment.